in a noisy village square, where the scent of dust and roasted grain mixed in the air, a small sparrow lived inside a rusted iron cage that hung from an old shop's awning. The cage creaked when the wind passed. Its bars were cold, unyielding, like an old promise no one remembered making. Inside, the little bird had just enough space to hop from one perch to another, never enough to fly. Outside those bars stretched an endless sky, so blue it almost hurt to look at. Flocks of birds moved across it, wings open, bodies rising and falling like waves of freedom. The sparrow watched them, her chest tightening. She could almost feel the wind on her feathers, almost imagine herself soaring over the rooftops, gliding past the fields beyond the village. But the bar stood between her and that dream. Strong, silent, impossible to break. The street birds would often gather below, pecking at crumbs. They looked up and chirped, "Little one, cages are safe. Don't dream too big. It only wears you out." Even the shopkeeper, wiping his hands on a rag, would smile and tap the cage gently. "Stay where you are," he'd say. "You're protected here." And for a while, the sparrow believed them. She told herself the cage was comfort, that stillness was safety. Day after day, she grew quieter, her wings heavier. Dreams of flight faded into the rhythm of small, predictable movements, perch to perch, seed to seed. But deep inside her bones, something refused to die. A spark, a whisper of what she could be. It wasn't memory. She had never truly flown, but instinct raw and restless. Sometimes then she'd press her beak against the bars, feeling their chill, imagining what might happen if she pushed, just once. But then the old voice returned, the one that hissed, "What if you fall?" Then came the night the sky broke open. A storm rolled through the village like a roar from the mountains. The wind howled, rain hammered the rooftops, and the shop's awning shook. The cage swung violently, chains clattering against metal. The street birds scattered, hiding under carts and corners, calling out, "Stay still, the storm will crush you." But the sparrow, she felt something else, a pulse in the chaos. The wind wasn't trying to break her. It was calling her name. Lightning flashed, thunder rolled, and in that wild rhythm, she heard freedom whisper, "Fly." The storm shook the cage again, harder this time, and one of the rusty bars bent just enough to leave a narrow gap. The sparrow froze, heart pounding so loud it drowned the thunder. "What if I'm not strong enough?" she thought. "What if I fall?" But then, something inside her snapped, not in fear, but in defiance. The tiny spark that had lived quietly for so long suddenly burst into flame. With every ounce of courage she had left, she pushed her trembling body through that gap. The jagged metal tore at her feathers, but she didn't stop. She pushed again and again, until the last bit of her wings slipped free. For a heartbeat, she felt the ground rushing toward her. Then the wind caught her, and for the first time, she didn't resist. She opened her wings, and the storm lifted her higher. Rain lashed against her face. The world blurred into motion, fierce, alive, unstoppable. The cage grew smaller and smaller below, a tiny shadow swinging in the chaos. And then, above the clouds, she found silence, a calm so pure it felt like a promise kept. The village below woke to whispers the next morning. They looked up and saw her, the same little sparrow, soaring over the rooftops. The street birds stared in disbelief. "How did you do it?" they called. From above, the sparrow's voice carried through the wind. "The storm wasn't my enemy. It was my teacher. It showed me what I was made of. I was never meant for cages. I was born to fly." And she never went back. She crossed valleys and rivers, followed the sun, met flocks that flew higher than clouds. The world, vast, untamed, beautiful, opened for her, and back in that village square, people spoke of her for years. The tiny bird who broke her own bars. Because in the end, the storm doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to wake you up, to show you that the walls you think are holding you were never stronger than your will to fly. Most of us live like that little sparrow, not trapped by iron, but by the quiet cages we build ourselves. Cages made of fear, of doubt, of voices telling us to stay small and safe. We wait for the right moment, the perfect time to try, to leap, forgetting that freedom never feels comfortable at first. It feels like a storm. It shakes everything we thought was certain. But maybe that's the point. Maybe the storm isn't here to scare you, but to remind you that you were never made for stillness. You were made to fly. So when life rattles your cage, don't shrink back. Don't listen to those who call you foolish for dreaming of the sky. Push through the fear. Tear through the rust. Even if it hurts. Even if you stumble. Because once you feel that first breath of freedom, once you realize how strong your wings truly are, you'll never go back. The storm doesn't break you. It reveals you.